Okay, we're now recording. So welcome everyone to Open Mic Night number 74. We are going to be announcing the short story winners for this year for our little pocket book called Untitled. So these stories will be published in issue 9 of Untitled, which hopefully will come out in March of next year. I'm very honoured that Les said yes to judging the stories, because Les has been very busy with his own writing these last few months, 6 months or so. For anyone who doesn't know who Les Zig is, he has been involved with Busybird Publishing for a good 10 years, since we met together at Professional Writing and Editing. But Les is the author of these 2 novels. I don't know if you can see them. So Just Another Week in Suburbia and August Falling. Les has also had many short stories published, as well as articles. He's doing very well in the script market at the moment. He is producer and director and multi-talented writer, in my opinion, not just of fiction, but of non-fiction as well. I saw that Les has started to serialise a novel today. Oh, here comes more people. So I think that Les is more than well qualified to be our judge. And so he takes the task very seriously. If anyone wants to see the comments, I don't know what Les is going to say. I'm hoping Les is going to give us a little bit of background into how he went about the judging of the competition. But so I'm going to hand over to you, Les, if you want to just say a little bit about judging the competition, whether it was good, bad or ugly, that would be great.
I'm not announcing winners or anything. You're going to do that?
I'm going to do that, yes.
Okay. So with short story competitions, obviously we get the stories in as final a form as the author can provide, unlike general submissions for Untitled, which go through editing. So in terms of looking at the stories, the number one thing that's most important to me is voice. Is the author's voice stand out? Is the author's voice I want? Is that a voice that I want to listen to throughout the course of the story? And I've always believed that the best voice in the world could sell the most mundane story, and most mundane voice in the world could not sell the best story. So voice is extremely important to me in terms of, wanting to engage with a story and take a journey with the author. In terms of genre or what the story is about, I don't really care, as long as it's a good story, as long as it, at the most basic level, it has a journey that it takes both the reader and the characters on. So when I was given the long list, as it's called, the thing that I was really looking for was stories that engage me immediately. Now, that doesn't mean I have to have a dramatic opening or anything like that. It just means that they introduced themselves to me and I felt like, okay, cool, I'm going to be taken somewhere here. And I think the 4 stories that were ultimately shortlisted are extremely different. They're all trying different things. There's one that's a little bit science fiction, there's one which is a little bit macabre, there's one which is literary fiction, and there is one which is more contemporary and a commentary on today's lifestyles. So it was also really hard to judge. So one of the things with any form of judgment in art form is it's subjective. You give this list to me, I've come up with my choices. You give it to someone else, they might come up with totally different choices. So don't feel discouraged if you don't end up where you thought you'd be or you'd hope you'd be. It really is such a difficult market, writing. It's almost you're at people's whims at times. And I know when we used to run, when we did earlier Untitles, there were times that we were submitted stories and were withdrawn because an author would say, hey, it's been picked up elsewhere. And we'd look at the story and think, we probably wouldn't have selected that. But then conversely, there were times that authors told us this has been rejected elsewhere and we loved it. So again, it really comes down to subjectivity. But I really enjoyed the 4 stories, and it was extremely difficult to split them. I had to reread them several times just to get a sense of the way I felt they were going to fall in terms of order. And that was something that was extremely hard to do.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to, normally, we'd be up on the stage and we would have certificates. So all the shortlisters will get a certificate as well as a prize, as well as being printed in Untitled. So tomorrow I will actually contact each of you to get, bank details and stuff like that to transfer money and to organise sending you the certificate. And then obviously the book will be published next year. So as you will, oh, here comes somebody else. As you saw that there were 4 names, that's because Les had one that was highly commended. So I'm going to announce that first. So the highly commended is the story called Marissa's Present by Dominique Davidson. Now, Dominique isn't here unless she's under a different name. Oh, are you Dominique? Oh, hi. Well done, Dominique. So you've got highly commended. So your story will be published in the journal, in the anthology.
Did you want me to say anything about the stories as you...
If you have your notes there, that would be great, because I think it's a really good learning tool for everyone, actually, not just the people who have entered.
So, there's different notes to the judge's notes I gave you. Yep. I might murder this word. The similitude to Mrs. Present is eerie. The author has either researched exhaustively or has genuine experience working in a mortuary. There's a really nice dark tone that builds the story piecemeal and reveals things bit by bit. So it always feels like it's extremely well paced, and you get a great sense of setting. And as you're getting that, you also get a great feel for the narrator.
Fantastic. So, yay for that one. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to do things on 2 screens here. Oh, sorry, on 2 things on 1 screen, I should say. So, 3rd place is, make sure I get the right one, is James Karantonis. I hope that I'm saying that one right, for If You Are But a Dream. So well done, James. Les.
So this story asks a really simple question about what dreams mean to us. It probably takes that a little bit further than you expect. When you read the story, it seems like quite a simple premise about a protagonist who misses his partner, but it goes somewhere a lot more deeper in terms of exploring what dreams mean to us and who the ultimate narrator is. It really felt to me like a hybrid of a Philip K. Dick and an Isaac Asimov story. Again, it built this universe of a very simple premise. It's probably, where the author envisions where you're going to end up. And it looks a little bit at AI, I guess, and how that is going to interface with our lives.
Awesome. Well done, James. Okay, number 2 is Zachary Prior with Vetiver.
Is Zach here?
Yes, Zach is there. Okay. Hi, Zach. Well
done. So I might mispronounce the title, so I might try it. I've got this thing, like when I read things in my head, I pronounce things perfectly. When I speak them aloud, I murder them. Especially when I put pressure on myself. So this is a really haunting story about dealing with loss, facing the past, coming home, and trying to find our place in the world and how we fit. In my other notes to Blaze, it reminded me a lot of a Luke Thomas story. Luke's a really good literary writer, and this had the same sort of haunting melancholy to the voice that eases you into this world and makes you feel the protagonist's lament.
Fantastic. Thank you. And, well, obviously, Rebecca's worked out that she's the winner. Sorry?
I don't know any of the authors' names, so...
Yes. So Rebecca Howden with the story Fever is the winner. So well done.
Yep, so Fever, a really nice tone that playfully explores our desire for notoriety and gratification, and to what cost pursue that. Voice is really strong throughout, and the story effortlessly alternates between the various plot threads and the trio of characters which form a sort of relationship triangle until it intertwines them. And I won't tell you where it heads, but I really like the kick in the ending in this. It was I was wondering where it was going to go, and it was one of these stories where I thought, hey, it's going to need the ending to pull it all together, and it did it really well.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. I'm so blown away. This is, amazing. Thank you.
Welcome. Great. Thank you. And as you can see, Les really knows how to articulate, the structure and form of stories, which I can't do. I can read a story. I'm an editor, so I should be able to do it much better. I know when I like something, but I find it much harder to actually articulate why I like something. Now, as Les said, he didn't know any of the names, so he's only probably he probably hasn't even realised who's who in terms of the winner, each person, each story. I'm hoping that some of you would like to read your story. I probably should have done it as we went, but I know that people were probably like biting their nails waiting. So how about we start with you, Dominique? Would you like to read some of yours?
Yeah, I can do that.
Great.
So my story is called Marissa's Present, and I was the macabre story that
Do you have experience in the mortuary?
Yeah, I've worked in anatomical pathology for a very long time.
Okay, it really comes across so well.
I think Les was worried.
Okay, so I'll read about a page or so.
Yes, please.
I often wonder whether death brings reconciliation with your loved ones. I like to believe that it's true for my sake as well as my customers. My sister and mother have been dead for 14 years. They died when I was 17. My father's been in jail for his crimes for almost the same amount of time. In my younger days, I flirted with death more than once, and I am not afraid. Death and I know each other intimately. I haven't seen many dead men though. Men are not my clientele when you work in a women's and children's hospital. I've seen dead young women, dead old women, and far too many dead babies for my 31 years. I've seen what they look like on the outside and what they look like on the inside. At my hospital, the autopsies are on babies. It averages out at 300 per year. That's a lot of dead babies. Most of them are premature, abnormal, or sometimes both. They look like little aliens. I don't mind the postmortems on the babies. They are small, not messy, and don't smell too bad when their abdomens are open. The amnion has a sweet, almost pleasant smell. And you can super glue most of them back together. It sounds ghastly, but I find gluing so much easier than sewing. The number of adult autopsies decreased after the organ retention scandal some years back. Now we send more adult bodies for coronial investigations than we dissect in the hospital. Coroner's cases, or death by misadventure, are the ladies who die because of medical treatment. The bodies are required to be covered up in sheets and then in plastic. I'm proud of my ability to be able to cover the bodies securely so that they are anonymous but accessible for identification by the transporters. It's a skill that is appreciated, and I am known throughout the hospital for my great wrapping technique. Staff in the department call my work Marissa's Present. It's a task I perform with care and respect. I estimate that I've folded sheets over 1,000 bodies during my career. Of all of them, there are 2 customers that particularly affected me. One was a 42-year-old woman who died in childbirth. She'd been trying for years and had finally got pregnant through IVF. She died in labour when her blood clotted in her veins, causing her to have a stroke. My mother was 42 when my father murdered her. The other case was a 14-year-old girl who died on a theatre table following surgery for ovarian cancer. She had stage 4 disease and had radiation and extreme chemotherapy to look forward to post-surgery. A massive hemorrhage saved her from that. My sister died from a massive hemorrhage when she was 14. Her head was bashed in with a hammer. When he killed my mother and sister, I was in hospital, recovering from a self-harm episode. I'd cut my arm so deeply, the doctor sedated me for 5 days. If I'd been home, I'd be dead too.
Oh, that's intense. Thank you. Fantastic. I can see what you mean, Les. Okay, James, would you like to read a page of yours?
Yes, yeah, of course. I just want to say, firstly, Les, Blaze, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was very much a surprise, which was nice. A nice surprise.
Yes.
So this will be from the start of the short story. In the darkness, cravings evicted Adam from his slumber. He had been dreaming, and again it was the same dream. Home, I want a pack of cigarettes. His vocal cords were still half asleep. Of course, Mr. Wellington, it would be my pleasure to fabricate a single carton of Treasure Luxury Black. With every word, a blue light pulsed from a sphere in the corner of the room. Your cigarettes will be ready in 1 minute and 30 seconds, sir. Adam didn't bother to respond. He placed his hands on the edge of the couch and with hands that barely worked, pulled himself out of the mold. A symphony of colours faded into the room and flooded down the hall. Neither awake or asleep, Adam staggered towards the light. Every day he'd make something new to keep his thoughts preoccupied. It made navigating in the dark impossible. His shins knocked his custom-designed coffee table, and his bare toes cracked as they connected with the ottoman he'd fabricated last week. He winced, but let out no cry. Would you like me to turn on the lights, sir? Asked Home. No lights, he grumbled. By the time he reached the light source, his cigarettes were ready. The massive cylinder in the centre of the room opened up and gracefully presented a fresh carton of cigarettes. Adam snatched it up and tore away at the cardboard, revealing 20 neatly packed sticks. The cigarettes were paired up like lovers in 10 sets of 2. They looked content with each other's company, blissfully unaware of how short their lives would be. He grabbed one and placed it between his lips. It was crisp and fresh. Adam patted himself down like he was on fire. Home, where the fuck is my lighter? The one that looks like a thumb. Locating. Your lighter is on shelf 4, bookcase 2 in your reading room. Adam clenched his fist. What about the skull one? Locating. Your lighter is on the bedside table in bedroom 3. The thought of climbing stairs was enough to put Adam off. Home, make me another one.
Great, thank you. Good readings, guys, too. James, where are you located?
I'm in Melbourne, in Mount Waverley.
Okay, I forgot to ask you, Dominique, are you in Melbourne?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne, in Altona, actually.
Okay, cool, thank you. Zach.
Hello, thank you.
Where are you located?
I'm in Yarraville, so not far from Altona.
Cool, so all Melbourne out so far. We don't know, because we read everything blind. We don't, obviously we have your addresses on file, but we are just looking at the story, so we don't know where everyone is.
Cool. I'm happy to read out a bit of mine. I'll read out the first page in a bit.
Yep.
It's called Vetiver as well. It's a doTERRA essential oil that I saw on the shelf, and that's sort of what inspired the story.
Yep.
I hadn't planned on returning home, but Mum got sick. Technically speaking, she's been sick for a while, but refused to tell anyone. It wasn't like, whoops, there goes my health. She'd been declining for months. Now she's in hospital, supine, blue tubes sticking in and out of her, arduously breathing. She's going to die. It's a cold Friday. Dad picks me up from the airport. The clouds are swirls of ice cream on the horizon. Good to see you, champ. Dad shakes my hand as I emerge through the terminal gate. I guess we've become that family who refer to each other by previously unused nicknames. Maybe I should respond with a surfing shucker. As if I'm some sort of deity who can control the movements of the sky, he tells me, "You've brought in the rough weather. We were hoping for some of that Bondi sun, mate." He takes my worn gym bag and we head to the car. I could have been one of those people who did research on Mum's condition, but the idea of learning about what was festering around her body broke a tiny bit of my heart. I grew numb. If I had a brother or sister, they might have done the sleuthing. Dad wouldn't lift a finger. It's difficult to talk about with my friends, so I don't. When we're in bars, expanding our waistlines with $12 Palmers and Marrickville craft beer and talking about our families, I stay silent. I'm loud when it's about work, who we fuck, what we read, what we watch on Netflix. Like a banana left out in the sun, Mum had deteriorated fast, and I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I told a couple of them and returned to Melbourne for a few days. Dad pulls up to the broken bitumen, the pockets of unruly shrubs, and the zebra stripes of flaking white and tired weatherboard. "Things are a bit of a mess," he apologizes. I nod and follow him inside. He isn't kidding. With Mum indisposed, the house had become a bachelor pad. Crusted baked beans on plates, knives still smeared with Vegemite next to the sink, pot plants limp and browning. I head to my room. The only thing that's changed in 8 years is the bedspread, yellow flowers instead of nautical stripes. I collapse onto them. It's dark outside when I wake. I drag my feet down the hall toward the broken noise of the television. Dad's already a few tins deep. "Get your coat, we'll go see her," he says.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, Rebecca.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll read a
Where are
bit.
you located?
I'm in Melbourne as well, in Kensington.
Okay, Melbourne.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll read the first page or so. I haven't practiced this and I'm not the best at reading out loud, so I might stumble quite a lot, but
that's okay.
Yeah, I'll give it my best.
Your TEDx.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so this story is called Fever. It's about yoga influences and obsession and doing bad things. So this is the start of it. Yoga isn't just stretching. The magic happens when you still your mind long enough to actually feel the pain that courses through you like stormwater, then breathe through it anyway. From the start, when Bliss would say things like that, Ashley would roll her eyes and harpoon her elbow into my ribs. And at first I'd smirk and I'd listen to her sarcastic whispers. It was always me and Ashley then, me playing the role of sidekick, her slightly disheveled understudy. But quietly, I was captivated by Bliss. Maybe it was her fame or her sweetly overcrowded smile, or the way she'd say, "You're the best," when I brought her a matcha latte. Already she was under my skin, flowering in my bloodstream, and I would do anything she said. Before Bliss, it was a long, cobwebbed winter. Something inside me was unspooling. The days were funereal, all wet streets strewn with leaves, cold hair whipping around faces. There were spores of loneliness in the air around me. Still, I faked it. Look at me, rubbing rosehip oil into thirsty skin, into the crinkling ends of my hair. I brightened myself with shimmery bronzer and peach lip gloss. I made sunny Instagram posts, a green smoothie bowl from a Sunday months ago, pomegranate seeds shining like jewels. Post-workout breakfast, so invigorated after an early morning run on the beach. I sat cross-legged on the floor for my morning meditation and tried my best to hush the wild thrashing hurricane in my head. You need a really strong affirmation for that though. At the studio, I'd teach my yoga classes.
I'm very frustrated.
Girls wrapped in different coloured workout floated through the mouses, a rippling stream of black and neon and ocelot print. There were breaks in the kitchen with Ashley and the others, sipping peppermint tea and crunching on goji nut bars. The girls had all quit caffeine, so I pretended I had too, jolting myself alive with double espressos in secret afterwards. Ashley would talk about her intermittent fasting diet and the new Booty Blast program she was creating and what some other influencer had posted on Instagram. I'd study my chipped manicure, longing for something, for time to pass, for anything. The days were anonymous, soaked with something like despair, until Bliss swept in, a burst of mermaid hair and coconut-scented skin, and it was like a window opening, letting in cold, bright daylight.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all for reading. That's really good. Les, did you want to say anything else? I can't hear you.
I just told you who killed JFK. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to say that again. Look, I mean, I always feel very similar when I read stories in the competition or when I read for Untitled. You actually get overawed in a way because there's a lot of great writers out there and there's not a lot of great opportunities. One of the reasons we started Untitled, or we first talked about it in 208, the first issue wasn't until 209, was because of the lack of opportunity for stories that didn't quite fit certain niches offered by other journals. And I remember our mandate was we just want a good story. We don't care what it is. And as you've heard, those 4 stories are all completely different to one another. And, you know, I can see that all 4 authors are really going to go places because they've got a great command of their craft and also a great command of their genre. I feel probably with all 4 stories, there's biographical elements in some of them. And we've always believed that writing is a reinterpretation of self. It's our way of making sense of the world through our characters and through the events that we create in our plotting. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading more of all 4 authors.
Yeah, fantastic. And so I want to thank Les for judging it because it is a really big task to judge. Obviously, we had people create the long list for Les, but he still had to go through 15 stories. So about 50,000 words he had to read in order to whittle it down to these 4 stories. And so it is a huge task because you don't actually just read each story once. Especially once you start getting it down, you know, to the sort of pointy end, you kind of tend to read some of the stories over and over because it's like, well, how do I choose? And in actual fact, when I look at the original reading scores of the people who whittled the stories down to the long list, their scores were very similar to Les's. So the winners actually were outright, you know, by everyone who read their stories. It was very obvious where their stories sat. Having said that, you know, reading is subjective, but that's why we like lots of readers so that it's fair reading at the end of it. So thank you so much to Les. We really appreciate that work that he's put in.
It's really hard fitting it in through the lockdown. I mean, like I'd wake up and then I'd stay in all day and I'd go to bed and I'd wake up again and do it again. It was really difficult finding time with all that happening.
Well, I highly recommend, this is a little plug for Les's book, August Falling and Just Another Week in Suburbia. I have my very own signed copies, so I'm lucky. I'd also just wanted to mention about Untitled. So as I said, we're working on issue 9, but if you actually look at all of the authors who have been published in this, which is between 10 and 15 stories in every book, and we usually get about 400 submissions, but there's some big names who have gone on. Leslie Germanis was one of them. Writers like Tess Evans. Tess has now got 3 or 4 novels out. Ryan O'Neill, he was, did he win or come second in the...
He won the Prime Minister's Literary Award for Fiction for their brilliant careers a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And he was shortlisted for the Moles Franklin the same year.
Yes, and didn't he come second or first for the Age Short Story competition years ago?
He came third, and that's actually a really good because I only met Ryan for Untitled and developed a friendship later on, but he told me I'm sure he's not going to mind me saying, he told me with the Age Short Story competition that his story that came third, he said, was rejected by every journal in the country.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, yeah, again, it shows that subjectivity.
Yes, definitely. And also writers such as Laurie Steed, who just won a
Verena Fellowship.
Alec Patrick, who did win the Miles Franklin a few years ago. So what we like to think, we like to kind of gloat a little bit that we have published these authors early on in their careers. And so we are hoping that you guys, who will be published in issue 9, go on to become well-known names in the industry. So thank you all. Sorry, Miles. Yeah, we expect the
Franklin
Miles
and
Franklin in a few years, guys. If people don't know what the Miles Franklin is, it's one of the most prestigious writing prizes in Australia.
That's the premier. It's the premier prize in Australia for fiction.
Is it $50,000 prize, or is it gone up?
I think it was around there, yeah.
Around $50,000. So in terms of writers, it's, you know, it's well worth winning if you can. So
it's one of the two comps that really influence sales through the books.
Yes.
So if you win it,
yes,
off you go.
So thank you all to you guys who have sent in your stories. I wish you well, and obviously we'll be talking to you on and off up until when we publish the stories as well. So thank you everyone else who has been listening and may be waiting to read your own story. I have some names here, and I don't know if there might even be some more of you who didn't let me know that you were going to read. Sorry, that's okay. We've got lots of time. I'm going to start with Paula. So Paula, I don't think we really need to time too much, maybe 5 minutes or so. Yeah, I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
I won't need that tonight.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Paula and I live in Thomastown, not far from Blaze. And I write children's stories, short stories, adult, and articles on Australian women in history. But tonight it's a short story, and it's only an early draft on it. It's going further. It's called Broken Daffodils. Rain falls lightly on the pillow of my dreams. No, it is falling on the child I was. The child's blonde hair is hidden under the hood of her red raincoat. She feels like Little Red Riding Hood as she skips between rows of rose bushes, in and out, around and around, sloshing in puddles with her matching red gumboots. She bends and plucks a dandelion, puffs out her cheeks and blows through pursed lips. The sodden white feathery parachutes do not leave the plant. She tries again and again. They refuse to budge. Look, Nan, it's nothing o'clock, she calls out. The older woman comes waddling up behind the child. Curls of white hair sneak out from under a rain-drenched scarf, patterned with blue ducks and green chickens. So it is, Nan laughs. That means we don't have to go inside, the child says. No, we can stay as long as you like. Nan adjusts her scarf. Nan, your scarf is funny. Is it? Ducks aren't blue. Chickens aren't. The girl scrunches up her face. Chickens aren't green. Aren't they? Nan asks. Are you sure? Cluck, cluck, cluck. An orange dappled hen appears, pecking at the ground as it wanders around the end of a hedge. See? The girl points to the chicken. She laughs. Silly chicken. You're going to get all wet. Waving her hand, she chases it back towards the hen house. The chicken changes directions, running through long grass on its spindly legs towards an incline leading down to the back fence. Come back, chicken. You're going in the wrong way. The air is full of squawking and laughter as the two of them run down the hill, arms and wings flapping wildly about. Broken clumps of dirt litter the ground. The child's foot catches, she topples forward and tumbles head over heels all the way to the bottom, her laughter ringing out the whole time. She comes to a halt on her back amongst a patch of wild growing daffodils. The chicken continues running and disappears into a clump of bushes. Oh, chicken! The girl calls and erupts into laughter again. She stays on her back, watching Nan taking cautious steps down the hill. Puffing, Nan reaches out and takes hold of the girl's hand. Are you all right, little one? The child stands up. She nods her head and sticks out her tongue to lick rain from her face. That was fun. Nan, can we do it again? Nan smiles. Don't think that's a good idea. She then bends down and picks up a broken daffodil. Sorry, Nan, I broke your daffodils. Together they gather up the rest of the damaged flowers and walk back to the house hand in hand. I wake in my dry bedroom, rain pattering on the tin roof. The daffodils will be in full bloom soon. I will walk down the hill and pick them to take to Nan. She so loved her daffodils. I hugged my pillow, closed my eyes, and tried to let the rain lull me back to sleep. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Marion.
Sorry, that's me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still writing the family history, and tonight I would like to read a description of a wedding from about 1605.
Oh.
So things were a little different back then. Weddings were conducted differently, and this is an upper class wedding. The people were quite wealthy. So at a time when most marriages were arranged to facilitate upward social mobility, Ben had not had to choose between advantage and love. The granddaughter of England's foremost printer, John Day, daughter of his oldest son and heir, Richard, Catherine had wealth and connections. She would be an asset to him as he established his law practice. He would need to be in London frequently, but Catherine was strong and educated enough to manage children, servants, and the country estate in his absence. The final blessing was that their fathers were friends, and both approved of the match. Officiating at the marriage was the smiling figure of Catherine's own father, the Reverend Richard Day. Usually of sombre demeanour, today his thin figure exuded warmth and joy. As he placed their hands together for the reading of the vows, and she looked up into Ben's eyes, she felt a small thrill, a frisson of sexual excitement shoot down her arm and spine at his touch. Something stirred deep down in her abdomen with a radiant warmth, and her nipples tightened and tingled. Her embroidered silver dress with its blue bows wafted around her, moved by the slight breeze from the open church door. The sweet, fresh, aromatic nuances of the wildflowers in her hair and the myrtle and orange blossom in her bouquet drugged the air so that she felt quite light-headed with happiness. The music from the lute uplifted her and carried her away. Then Ben was placing the ring upon her finger, symbolizing their love flowing from one to the other, never ending, forever. Catherine looked across at her mother and saw that she was nodding, smiling, conveying confidence to her daughter at this solemn moment. As they left the church, Catherine on her new husband's arm, they distributed coins to the villagers who had gathered to wish them well, and to the trumpeters who heralded their approach to the onlookers. The villagers threw wheat over the couple, a potent wish for their fertility, and laughed and sang. The wedding feast was prepared at Urbridge Manor, to which they all repaired after the service. Toasts were proposed, speeches made, and general merriment ensued. Long tables were laden with meat and fruit and wine and cake, to which the guests helped themselves. Richard Bonwick moved among them, laughing, joking, toasting, attending to needs. The Reverend Richard Day sat at the high table and murmured gently to all, still smiling. The bride cake was splendid, elaborately iced and decorated with egg white and sugar. The smaller groom cake, a rich fruit cake, was carefully sliced and placed in small boxes to be distributed to the guests as a lucky token. Catherine, as was the custom, cut the blue bows from her dress, and these also were distributed. Gloves were given as gifts to the more important guests. Singing, dancing, and gaiety took them into the night, and some of the older men started to make jokes about getting the young couple into bed and how they would interrogate Ben on the morrow about the details of his first night with his bride. Eventually, Ben and Catherine were led to bed. The two bride men removed her blue garters and, amid much laughter, fastened them to their hats. The bridesmaids undressed her and placed her into the bed, which was dressed with ribbons. They waited with her until the naked Benjamin had climbed into the bed beside her. The crowd that had accompanied them to their bedchamber gradually dispersed, and Ben finally felt safe to reach for his wife. Awkwardly at first, and then with growing confidence, they explored each other's bodies gently until passion and instinct guided them to a tumultuous, ecstatic climax. That's it.
Perfect. That was like 1 second to go.
Oh,
Well done. Well done. Thank you for that. Sue.
Sorry, boy, that's a hard act to follow. I live in Greensborough, and I write just about everything, mainly memoir, but I'm captivated by people. And so if I sit on a train and I see somebody interesting, I write about them. If I walk past somebody who does something weird, I write about them. So this is one of those. It's just I happened to turn a corner the other day and there was something interesting, and I thought it was interesting. You probably think not. It's only short. They were there when I came round the bend on my morning riverside walk. A collection of colourful plastic laundry tubs had overnight been attached to a small copse of trees. The metal brackets connecting them a few metres up each tree trunk also served to tilt the tubs slightly forward. Up in the trees, 20 pairs of eyes stared down at me because inside each tub was a pre-loved teddy. Protected from the weather and framed by the edges of their tub, the teddies watched the people below. I strolled among the trees, gazing up in delight at the ballerina teddy, the policeman teddy, the brown, the black and the white teddies. They were all shapes and sizes. Some held flowers or hearts, some wore hats, others wore glasses. As I wandered, behind me I could hear other walkers' surprised reactions as they rounded the bend and encountered the bears. Children clapped their hands and mothers made cooing noises. Almost everyone left the path to stare up into the trees for a few moments at least, there to be transported back to the joy of childhood. Later, when I told my daughter-in-law of the find, she said someone had told her a creepy old man whose yard backs onto the walking track was responsible for the bears. She added that sometimes the old man came out through his back gate to talk to the children looking at the bears. I shuddered, thinking the worst. But later that night, I wondered if the creepy old man was instead a widower living alone in the silence of his empty nester home, remembering a time when he created simple surprises to make his own children happy. Perhaps he was just a lonely old man trying to give people some joy. If that was indeed the reality, how shameful we chose to reward his efforts with our cynicism.
Great, thank you. So basically what you're telling us, Sue, is no one is safe around you.
It's true. It's true. What can I say? Everybody's a character.
Yeah. Good. I think that's what writers are. We are voyeurs, aren't we?
Yeah, can't help it. Yeah.
No. Coral, I don't know if you want to read. I don't know if you're still there. Are you there, Coral?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just getting used to all this stuff.
That's okay. Would you like to read?
No, I just thought I'd have a listen tonight. Thanks.
That's okay. That's fine. Great to have you here. We haven't seen you for ages.
I know it has been ages. It's just a bit easier than driving for an hour and a half. I know.
Good to have you here.
Thanks.
Michelle Burke, would you like to read or say anything?
Wasn't going to read.
No.
No. But I'm Michelle. All right. I've just finished my third book.
Yeah, so Michelle is publishing her book with us at Busybird Publishing, and I just before I left work this afternoon, I got the edited version. That was very fast. I feel like
It is.
Yeah, I feel like we just sent it to the editor.
Well, Erin and I turned it around in, I think, a week.
Wow. Yeah, I thought it was quick.
Yeah, but look, there was a few little changes, not much, but, we tweaked it. And
Well, that's lockdown for you to get stuff done, isn't it?
yeah, like this one took me, I think, 6 months.
Yeah.
Which is shorter than the last two.
Yeah.
So,
well done.
Yeah, but I yesterday when she said she finished it and she was sending it to you, I got very emotional. Like it was just, it was really.
We do, put our heart into writing, don't we? So.
And this is a difficult one too, as you know, with writing about death and dying and
yes,
and talking about.
I think too, though. I think people underestimate, like they think, if it's your third book, you're old hand at it, and that it doesn't mean as much to you. But I think actually, the more you write and the more you put out there, the more important it is to you.
Well, it is, and this one was supposed, after the first one, Conversations with Paul, I wanted to have a companion book, and this is sort of like the companion book, but it's a little bit more. It's much more than the original idea. But
or we look forward to maybe at the next open mic you could read some of it, because you'll probably have a printed book in your hand.
Yeah, I love it. Well, yes, I've got to talk to Kevy about design now, so that's exciting. I've got an idea of what I want. But the last time I read the first introduction, so yeah, all exciting.
Yes.
On to the next project.
Yeah. Oh God, the monster.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for coming anyway.
That's all right.
Shell. Oh, just when Shell just put something in her mouth. Did you want to read anything tonight, Shell? No. All right, I think that's everybody, unless I missed somebody. Did I miss anyone in terms of reading? Les, maybe you could read something. No.
Not me. No.
Why not?
No, I'm working on something, so I've got my head in that space at the moment.
Maybe I could read something out of your book.
Nah, you shouldn't do that.
Why not?
That's one of the sex scenes. Yeah. No, don't do that.
Can I read the first page from August?
Read something out of your book.
I haven't got
You've
one
got books. Me. It's on the shelf behind you.
They're not real books, Les.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to read the opening page to August Falling by Les Zig. This isn't a love story. It involves love and things related to love, but it's not neat, it's not easy, and it's not straightforward. Life rarely is. Love never is, at least not how I've known it. The problem is, it's so easy to get loaded up with preconceptions. Somebody might seem like the sweetest person alive on first impression. Oh, they're so nice. They could be a serial killer, but they seem nice. People are judged as sweet or kind or arrogant or any number of things based on that first impression alone. A narrative might even evolve, like with that woman in the booth across from mine, 60-something, robust, brows peaking in disapproval, and wearing a dress that has a floral pattern better suited to curtains. Just another of the cafe's everyday patrons. Opposite her sits a kid. Can't be more than 8. The comical scowl on his round face directed at a forlorn sandwich, a bite taken from one corner. The woman is stern, probably the kid's grandmother. Doesn't do well with children. Her own daughter got knocked up straight out of high school. No, in the last year of high school, and had to drop out. Now her daughter's future is ruined and she works some factory job while grandma has to take care of the kids. And grandma doesn't like it. She thought she was done with kids. A young waitress slinks over, her uniform of black shirt and black pants too tight, an affront to whatever etiquette the cafe requires. Grandma's face is hard. A smile would see that face crumble until all that would be left is a dilution of grandma's life. an accumulation of missteps, failure to take the chances she should have, and bundles of regret. It's a good read. Okay, well, we're done for the night. Unless anyone else has anything they would like to say, anything they would like to announce in terms of any projects they've got going. No. Okay, so thank you all so much for coming. I might actually stop recording. Stop recording.